Hey everybody, Amy Hauser with Made for More with Amy K. Hauser. You guys, I have the amazing, beautiful, thoughtful, insightful Keisha Holder with me today. You guys, I'm so excited for this chat. It's going to be incredible. Yay, Keisha, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here and so glad that we're able to have this chat with Amy.
Yeah.
Um, just,
It's
excited.
it's so fun. You know what? So
Yeah.
for those people that watch or participate rather on the Wednesday nights
Mhm.
in the Mirror Word study, because I know a lot of people watch these that don't, participate on those on Wednesday nights. You guys,
Mm.
Keisha is so amazing and so like calming. I love the insights and the things that you share on there.
Wow.
So, how'd you get here? How did you end up in the mirror? Tell us a little bit about you and how you landed here.
Wow. Thank you for that. It felt like I stumbled on it.
Mm.
Obviously, the steps of the righteous are ordered, right? Abba's children is just, there's no mistake in him. But in terms of my experience, I was searching. I did not grow up in the church. I grew up knowing about the church and loved God, loved God, especially at an early age because my grandmother loved God.
Oh, that's beautiful.
She's still alive. She's going to be 95 next month.
Mhm.
And it was because of her that I became aware of Abba. Of course, it was in organized religion. She was Roman Catholic. She still is. And as a child, I would not have known anything about what religion does and those types of things. But it didn't matter because I witnessed her celebration of her love for him through praising. Like, so she would be in the garden downstairs and I would just hear her singing loudly. And that's what I would wake up to in the morning. And I'm like, oh my God. So I knew a lot of songs because of what I heard her sing. So fast forward, going through life, I didn't live with her all the time. So eventually I moved away. And once I moved away, my interaction with the church community, of course, changed because my parents were not religious and they were not spiritual. So it was all about education. It was all about school. It was all about that, preparing for the world. And that's what my life was about at that point. Then I become a young adult. I go away to college. And when I get to college, my friends um, at university were like, I remember them whispering in the hall one day of our apartment. They're like, so you think we should invite her to come to church with us tomorrow? Do you think she's gonna say yes? And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, well, we've been planning this for weeks. We were thinking that you should probably come. We would love for you to come with us. And they had just found a church. We were all from out of town. We were in upstate New York, Buffalo, New York. So we're all from away. And anyway, they basically had conspired
Oh,
that
I love it.
that they would try to get their very nice friend, but their friend that doesn't seem to know anything about God to come to church with them because that would be really cool for her. So I was like, okay, I'll go. But I already had formulations in my mind because at that point, without knowing what the definition of the word agnostic was, I had already declared myself agnostic. I didn't do the research and I kind of just overheard someone use the word and I'm like, that sounds like what I am. I'll go with that. And so I was very indifferent. I was very apathetic. I was very, you know, either way, whichever way the wind blows. I literally used to say this, that um, I would say hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. That was kind of like my mantra as a young person at the time, maybe in my 20s, early 20s. And I didn't know that there was something wrong with that. I didn't know that I was just playing it safe and, just not living. I was very humdrum and unexcitable and laissez-faire. So we go to this church. It was a Baptist church. And there were miracles, signs, and wonders. But before the miracles, signs, and wonders, the thing that took me aback was the level of intense celebration that was taking place in the space. I mean, just the excitable praise and worship and singing. And I'm like, wow, people get up early in the morning to come and do, like literally people get up really early in the morning to catch a good seat so that we could do this. And I didn't like to get up early in the morning. So I'm like, okay, I'm here. But I kind of noticed they're having a grand time. So then my indifference begins to get shaken because
Literally that first time or over time?
literally that first time, like I began to take notice that I was in that place, that community, that town for more than just school. Because at that point, school was my religion and academics was my sport. So there was nothing else in my world going on. I was very one-dimensional and that was it. And I was good with that because that's what I was trained to do. So when now my world is opening up to the things of God in a new way, in a relational way, in a way that I had not been exposed to before, because I witnessed my grandma and I felt the feelings at age 4, but that was where it ended. So then I end up being agnostic because there's no relating, right? So I get to this church community and I'm observing the community engaging with their love or whatever their interpretation of love for him was through celebration and dance. And I get the feelings and I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing. But I still don't have information. So it's the high, it's the butterflies in your stomach that you get when you meet that first guy that you like kind of thing. And you're like, yeah, we're gonna ride off into the sunset. This is it. Yeah. And then life happens. And as life happens, the elements of relationship and trauma and how you were raised and how I was raised show up. And you're like, well, where's the romance? What happened? Where's the fairy tale? Yeah.
Oh gosh. Wow, just hearing you say that, but I want to hear more, but there's a couple of things that are coming up. For one, that feeling, you just said you were raised up, the agnostic mindset being expect the worst, hope for the best, is completely being applied in that situation experientially. So you are in it, the best is starting to bubble up, but you're like, oh no, I'm going to apply that love story of first love, butterfly. This literally can't be. I need the academic or my school, my religion's backing. Say, no, I need to apply logic here, where logic actually doesn't have a place
That's
in
right. That's right.
in that regard.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, as these two worlds collide, then what's happening?
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic, right? I eventually embrace it. I embrace that new aspect of my world because I've tested it in my mind. It appears safe. I dipped my toe in. I didn't get burnt. Okay, so we'll go in fully. And at that point, I begin to learn about myself in ways that I didn't know about before, because up to that point, I was heavily reliant on my home community, my family community. They sent me to school. That's what I'm here to do. That's all that I will do. I will do that, finish, and go back home. That was the plan. And so there's no way that I was expecting to meet God, to be loved by God, to encounter God, to have encounters with God, and then to shift from what I had initially thought I was going to be doing, right? Of course, the school thing remained, but it was no longer going to remain my place of refuge and hiding or security. It was no longer going to shape my identity. Up to that point, my identity was defined by stay in school, do good in school, complete that, get out, get a good job, and live that way, whatever that looked like. Anyway, so the
Predictable.
world, yeah, so the worlds start to collide, and um conflict begins to show up in various ways because things are becoming challenged. So now I'm beginning to examine my cultural origin, my family origin, the way we did life, the way I grew up being raised without being taught actively, but still being taught subliminally, right? By the voices of my culture and my community and so forth. Those things now begin to bubble up to the surface as belief systems that I didn't know I had. I come from the culture that I'm a part of, or that I was born, that the Lord, the Abba, actually brought me here through, is an indigenous community, right? So there are already, on top of the standard cultures of the world, there are the elements of indigenous culture and practices that are associated with that. So fears along the line of spirituality and how you deal with the supernatural and how you deal with ancestors, food, all of that. That was a part of my upbringing, and I didn't realize that like I had no placement for it. So in that encounter, that world is now colliding as well, because I have to now make some decisions. I love this church. I love where I am. I enjoy what I'm experiencing, but it's not explaining to me how to deal with what my grandmother taught me to do when a certain time of the year shows up. It's not showing me how to navigate with um the first guy you encounter when you're considering starting a family. It's telling me about Proverbs 31 as the model woman, for example, and what a husband should do. We'll find that out in Ephesians. But I'm open, but then that's not what I saw growing up. And
Yeah.
the the Amerindian, the indigenous husband where I come from does this. It's based on principle, and it's based on um, cultural norms that are difficult to articulate. Hence the reason why I don't know why we do it.
Right. And so because all of those things like you're talking about, and this
Yeah,
is happening when you're a young woman, by the way, this is happening in your like early 20s, I'm assuming.
yeah,
And I mean, those are lenses that we view everything through,
that's,
right?
that's right.
Everything, because we view life and our walk with Christ, our relationships, our financial situations, our
Yeah,
raising children through a lens of our own experiences.
yeah,
And we don't even realize until we're faced with something like that, that's huge, that these impact, like we can all look at the same thing, but
yeah.
how Keisha sees it, how Amy sees it, how Joe Schmo sees it
Mhm.
is going to be filtered through all of those things. And
That's
it's
right.
not like, to me, what do you think? Like, I don't think it makes it wrong. I think he gave us those experiences. He created the world so
Right,
beautifully diverse,
right.
yet there's things that lens adjustments. It's like sitting at the optometrist, right?
That's
And getting those,
yeah, yeah. Until you find the right fit that suits you.
yeah,
Yeah,
uniquely.
yeah, exactly.
Your prescription and mine aren't the same.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
So what a beautiful unfolding, but can be like unnerving at the same.
Yes, that's the traumatic birth that
Yeah.
Paul is talking about, right?
Yes, we just read that. We literally just read that last week and this past Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Yeah, traumatic.
Which looks so different for everybody, whether you end up falling on your face or that's the course of 10 years or a weekend.
Yeah. So
Like,
I get this collision
mhm.
taking place that 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 hurts so good. Right? It hurts so good.
Yeah.
Because I now have to make some decisions. Do I leave my family behind? Do
Mhm.
I treat them differently? do I try to, what do I do basically? So first of all, I dip my toe in, I dip my feet in, then I go all in. And then that's when I learned that I was not apathetic by design. The indifference that I was demonstrating before was not originally me, right? That's what I had learned to become through life experience and trauma responses and whatever the thing was that I had encountered on my way to that point. So the resignation that I was walking in was a learned behavior that was an outcome of things
Yeah.
that, took place. So
I mean, it's a part of you is it's a way to keep you alive. It is
yeah,
it is the soul's response
yeah,
to keeping
yeah,
life
yeah.
and breath in the body.
Right. It's some level of insulation, right? And I, so now I'm coming out. It's safe. It basically, yeah, it's safe to come out now. Come out, come out. You can come out now. It's okay. You can step out. And I'm doing that without realizing I'm doing that. So I become completely passionate. I'm like all in. Listen, gung ho for Jesus. This is me. So at that point, what I didn't expect was to be blindsided by my encounters, sorry, to be blindsided by another confrontation, another collision that would take place. And that collision would be, fast forward, I enter into my 30s, I finish school, I do the thing, and then I'm about to now enter into family and, marriage and those things. And there's a picture that I have not based on what my initial family gave me, but now what my new family has given me, which is
Oh,
my
wow.
family. I've
Mm.
taken that one full on because remember, I'm fully in now, right? In my mind, I have proven this is the way to go, not that way. And why I have proven this would now stem from the separation premise that legalism thrives on. You end up having to choose between your worlds to be a part of the one world, right? So there's no way that you can have inclusion as a part of the experience because it's either or. These things are competing, they're important, but you'll have to say bye-bye to one of them because you can't serve two masters at the same time, da, 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 da. And of course, the corroborating scriptures are used.
Yes, a house divided cannot
Oh
stand.
my God.
We could go on and on, right?
Go on and on. So I made the choice. Well, we're gonna go this way. And proceeded to go that way. And it seemed to be working along as it was starting because you're learning. And of course, you're making room for the things that you don't know yet. So
Yeah.
if there's something that feels untoward or uncomfortable, in the formative stages, you're chalking that up to, I'm not yet developed in my learning with regards to this thing yet, with regards to this thing. So that must be the reason why this gap exists. Or that must be the reason why the information I'm getting is not satisfying my need at this point in time. And then at that point as well, I still had not yet developed in my self-awareness enough to know what I liked and what I didn't like and why it was okay to like or not like. Like I didn't have that level of confidence in that aspect of who I was. It wasn't a part of my training, right? I was trained very well in the academic things, but in the identity components of my life and confidence and those things, even outside of I am awareness, that was a significantly low development in my development there was arrested, I should say.
Okay.
So it was lagging. It was lagging, still loading, as they say.
We all have those in varying degrees, some much
Mm-hmm.
more pronounced and obvious, and some others will continue to learn till our last breath.
That's right. That's right. So I'm chugging on. And then I hold on to different, and I think this happens with a lot of us. You pull out frames So I pulled out the spiritual warfare frame and I held on to that because it felt safe. I realized that it felt, I think people can identify with this. You finally feel like you can suck it to the devil. He's been sucking it to you all your life. Now it's, wow, I have ammunition. The weapons of my warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Let's pull them down.
Yeah. Been there, been there.
So as an army of one alone, here I am trying to pull down all them devils.
Unaware of our union at the time.
Ooh, child. And
No,
so that's where the collision shows up. That's the second collision. Because at this point, I'm fully immersed. And I'm at that point the type of person that if I give you the yes, it's a yes, 1000% yes. It's not half-hearted. There's no more apathy. Like that's not a part of my vocabulary anymore. We're doing this, we are going big or we are going home, right? So there's no in between. And that's why I would not even consider looking at my religious context at that time through a critical lens. That's why I would not, like, they were total blinders. This is the truth. We're not talking about what the gospel means and how it actually differs from what you're saying. What you're saying is the truth. And it's uncomfortable because it's the truth that I'm not familiar with. So then narratives are formulating to support that. But the thing doesn't get sustained. It's not sustainable. Listen, it was destined to fall apart from the start. It was just about me becoming aware and learning that down the line and accepting that as truth. But up front, listen, man, I was trying to evangelize my entire family. We gotta get y'all in heaven before you die. Because if you die before you go to heaven, if you die without accepting Christ, not accepting your I amness. If you die before you accept Christ, you're going to hell.
oh yeah.
I can't, I love you too much. So I'm championing them getting to where they need to go because I'm God's little soldier here on earth trying to make it happen for everybody. I don't know why I became Christ, but apparently he didn't have anything to do and he didn't do anything because I'm here to do it.
Yeah. That heavy load on those shoulders, man. But you got it. We got it for a while. We got it. Then what happened, girl?
Well,
Face plant.
things fell apart
Yeah.
and there were no longer enough hands to hold everything together. And you're trying to hold something, it falls apart, you catch it midstream before it breaks, but then you salvage it from breaking, but it's fractured. And you have a set of fractured components of your life. So for example, I began to look at things through chronologically, I'm growing, obviously, right? My chronological age doesn't stop moving. And so I guess alongside that, there are certain levels of awareness that comes along with that process. Like you're aware that you're older, you're becoming more matured in the things of life, how to do business, how to do home stuff, marriage stuff, work stuff. These are things you have to do regardless. And as I'm doing these things, I begin to register things like stress, things like feelings of inadequacy for never matching up or meeting the mark, or things like feeling like I'm not measuring up as it pertains to how I would like to show up for my children. Things like why am I constantly at loggerheads with my husband at the time, and which we are no longer husband and wife, because that's another collision that became what it became. But in the process of all of that unfolding, there are the obvious questions of why this is happening and why that is happening and why is this unraveling and why isn't it working? Remember, the church said, this is what we should do and this is how we should do it. I'm following the recipe. I'm following
Ah,
the
ah,
thing.
there's the thing,
Yeah.
following the recipe, right? And it starts to fall apart. There's missing things. Wait,
Right.
wait.
Yeah, I listen, I mixed the flour, I mixed the baking powder, I mixed the vanilla, I put everything in, but I didn't get cake at the end. That wasn't what I got. And I had to at some point recognize, wait, this thing is not tasting right. After all of that work, listen, first, Amy, let me tell you, when that second aha moment showed up, it was, oh, I'm vexed. I don't want this. Somebody lied and
Mm.
somebody believed the lie. The somebody that believed the lie was me. The somebody that lied didn't necessarily lie consciously. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't an intentional sabotage. I could see that. They were well-meaning, but it was still a lie.
So the blame wasn't on your part. Sorry. Somebody did it. Somebody lied because I followed what I heard.
I followed what I heard. Well, okay, so I think I was innocent in my ignorance, which is where a lot of us got blindsided because for some of us who didn't grow up in the church, for some of us who grew up in spaces where there wasn't the church then became our parent and took on what our parents were not able to give us. And we put blind trust in those spaces and those institutions because we truly believed that they could carry us where they said they could carry us. And so the church is literally raising a whole lot of children that were birthed to people who are not participating in their raising at this point in time because they're not a part of that conversation. And the children that are being raised are fully believing that this thing could deliver what it presents as promising to deliver. So based on the optics, right?
We have such, yeah, absolutely. We are longing for, if do we even know what we're longing for? Because it's like it's that need for love, that place for belonging, that peace, our knowing, going back to that inner knowing that we all have.
No.
Keisha, what you were saying earlier about how 4 years old
Mm-hmm.
probably started even before four. Four was where it was the awareness. We know it
Mm-hmm.
started before. You had an earthly understanding of
Mm-hmm.
your inclusion, of
Yeah.
that love, and then you could hear it, see it, sense
Mm-hmm.
it in the earthly senses of our
Mm-hmm.
natural senses through your grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that we've always known. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what everybody's doing in the church structure. We're either doing it in the academic, the
Yeah.
worldly, or the church of any
Yeah.
kind, that know getting back to the essence of what we've always known to be true,
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
included. And we will go through this
Yeah. Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful unfolding. So
Yeah.
anyway, you go back because I'm not like trying to interrupt you, but it's just fun. We're into the depths. We're hitting all kinds of things in your life.
Listen, so I got at that point, I'm at the point where I'm now looking for a community outside of the community.
Mm.
Community to now help to support the fallouts that come from the failings of that community that I had put my trust in, right? So, okay, gaps are here, there, and everywhere. I'm not getting answers there. I'm going to turn to my friend community. And so my friends community actually, they're still a part of it actually, but the way that emerged was it was crisis intervention. That was one of the commonalities or the platforms that would have brought us together. And I guess that's what they call a trauma bond. A lot of people come together based on this commonality between their shared experiences. I can identify, I am empathetic. Oh my goodness, I feel bad for you. I'm sorry that happened. Let's hold each other. And in terms of the friendship, that's what we would have. Maybe I don't want to do a disservice to the friendship because obviously there's way more than that in it. But I think that that's what I identified as the common element that would have drawn us together. And
Wow.
then the love followed.
That's really powerful because I'm going to just touch on that, but I don't want you to lose your train of thought. I don't think you will.
Mhm,
But that just really hit an important thing that I think our world really gets stuck on is
mhm,
we find our common brokenness, right? So that's
mhm,
what we'll identify. We find our areas of co-mingling through
mhm,
difficulty because we've moved, as society has moved into that place of embracing our brokenness. And for
mhm,
me, where I have a program I put together, which is based on 10 steps of analogies and creating a mosaic, it's called Beauty and Brokenness, but it's
mhm,
really not
mhm.
like it's not, there is beauty in that, but we don't remain, it's in the revelation of the wholeness.
Right.
So if the bond starts in the common addiction, divorce, sorrow of loss of a loved one, or whatever it is, uh,
Mhm,
a struggle,
mhm.
but then comes together that I see you and I can meet you there, and I'm not judging the thing,
Yeah.
but then love transforms,
Right.
moves us into the reality of who we really are, and
Right.
accelerating and living from there.
Sure.
And then no longer identifying as this. But so often this is where people remain.
That's right. That's right.
And then
That's right.
you just said the trauma, but the love.
That's right. Right. So obviously, the way how friendships operate, the ones that last, they tend to proceed very organically, right? So it's not scheduled and it's not planned, and you
Yeah.
just connect and you don't know the basis of your connection. I like you, you like me, I think you're cool, let's hang out.
Hmm.
Then you have a conversation and, oh, that happened to you as well. Yes. And oh my goodness, this is what I did. This is what I do, blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
that's where it was initially. And then over time, it evolved into, but I can't let you go. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, I see this happening. I will not leave you alone in this. Oh no, listen, you can call me whenever. It doesn't matter what time of the day or night, you're not inconveniencing me. I'm here. And so on and so on. And that obviously not being planned, but it then being, now I can assign vocabulary to it. It then being the, it's safe to come out now aspect of the relationship, which shows up in the form of, before, I'm guarded because I don't know that it's safe to come out. And so I'm guarded using all kinds of various types of armor, whether it's aggression, whatever, various types of armor. In my case, my armor was apathy and indifference previously. So then I begin to come out because I have this safe space and a soft place to land in my friends. And as I'm able to land there, then the love exhibition is uncalculatedly effortless, right? So there's no question of how much is too much, because there's no such thing as too much. And I don't even know that there's no such thing as too much because that wasn't my plan. I would have planned to give $10, but by the time we're finished, it's 100,000, or I'm just saying, right? Or I might have planned to just stop by for 2 minutes, but then I get there for 2 minutes and I realize I'm spending the night.
Yeah. Because the source never stops flowing, right?
Exactly, exactly. So, so this then becomes the real community that Abba uses to
Mm.
to exhibit his love in real time and in real space. And this is when we then, as a community, began to have conversations that allowed us to collectively examine the fallout from the legalistic experience, because that was also something we had also shared. We had shared the experience individually, not as a group, and in comparing notes, had our own associated traumas that came from it, that we had not been given permission by our own selves to reconcile and register as even trauma, because it would go against the grain. It would be a betrayal then to the institution. Now, while we would not have been fundamentalist in the religions that we were a part of, the elements of fundamentalism were significantly present in how the religions ran their ship. And that's the kind of bondage that we couldn't even register prior to our community, our shared expression of our experiences. That's the kind of bondage that we didn't even know, we didn't even have permission to articulate individually, internally, but through the shared interactions and I guess the associated sick and tired of being sick and tiredness of it. I said that because I don't have a word.
I think that's a perfect word. Great.
Yeah, the associated sick and tiredness of sick and tired of being sick and tiredness of it that we all happen to have at the same time. It then began to be possible for us to give ourselves permission as we gave each other permission to have that feeling, to have that experience, to have that disappointment, to have that vexation, to be like, but wait, how much money I gave in tithes last month? And hold on, is that a new car?
Yeah.
And it's not that I mean, all of those conversations that I remember going through do you tithe from the net or do you tithe from the gross? I remember is it me, God, or the devil talking in my head, that question. And there are those things that we can all register as common across the board.
Which all contribute to the dogmatic conformity flu.
Right.
Or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So the worlds collided, and when the world collided, it eventually reached a tipping point, because at that point you are exploring this aspect of your journey in a safe place among your friend group, and it initially is unpleasant, or it appears unpleasant, because there are no rules. Like, you don't have to behave yourself now. You don't have to be poised. You don't have to be composed. You don't have to, the language may not be fun, may not be nice. It may be all kinds of things, but it's honored on account of the fact that, hold on, if I shut you up because of a rule, then I shut you out and I shut you down. And where do you go? What happens to you after that? I love you too much. And it would have been Abba that would have placed that love in our hearts for that person in that way. Anyway, fast forward. And the collision, the inevitable collision that leads to, shows up in various ways. It shows up in the form of marriages that didn't proceed on, because I'm not going there with you with that. Are you crazy now? What's your problem? Come on, you need to be submissive. You need to do this. You need to do that. You're not following those rules. What's wrong with you? It has to be those friends. And it shows up in terms of interacting with spaces like institutions, schools, work, those conversations that did not take place because conformity was happening. And then when conformity ceases to exist, there is going to be a revolution, but the revolution is preceded by a conflict.
Always.
So the conflict shows up, and then the resulting revolution, which shows up in the form of a manifestation of redeemed identity occurring in real time, or the realization of redeemed identity through I amness now shows up. And I am not about to allow you to put this genie back in that bottle. It's not happening. So we're about to have a fight. And it's going to be a nice fight, because I'm not fighting to overpower or dominate you. I am living. This is going to be good.
And you can come along for the ride, or you can remain.
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
But, so literally I was just listening this morning. All of that is so beautiful. By the way, it's just, and just hearing you at the end, Keisha, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the story within all of us.
Yeah.
That is longing to be told, to unfold, and then be told.
Yep.
And I think that's really going to encourage others.
Yeah.
because we experience that in different ways, and sometimes we just don't have words for it, and we don't have a paradigm yet. People
Yeah.
are, when we encounter one another,
Mhm.
we go, we pick the things we identify with. That's why
Yeah.
I love to do this, because that's the thing. There's going to be common identifiers for us to say,
Mhm.
keep on, soldier.
Mhm.
Doing better than you think you are.
Yeah.
And my gosh, yes, there's so much in there. And I guess I kind of forgot what I was going to say about that. But
Mm.
when we hear that, and there's a resonance within us,
Mhm.
it says that's what's happening. Oh, I know what I was saying. I was listening to somebody has this, it's kind of a meditation, but it's an encouragement, and it's for women, but it's also been made, I'm sure, copies for men as well.
Mhm.
But it's about this, and it says the chosen woman. Now, that's to me, all of us that
Mhm.
awaken to
Mhm.
our chosenness, our
Yeah.
I amness, right? So to
Ooh.
say the chosen woman
Right.
resides in us all
Yes.
when
Yes.
we attune to her call.
Yes.
But it's saying we're gonna often walk alone,
Yeah. Yeah.
have seasons of doing exactly what you were saying, where we have to turn to question
Yeah.
the what's always been, the comfortable, the familiar, the people that sometimes do get left in essence behind,
Mhm.
that we're not clawing, fighting for closure, resolution, for them to understand, to come along, to say the
Right.
sinner's prayer, to do the
Right.
things. Um, but allowing those seasons, those chapters to close if they need to continue on to where he's saying, oh my gosh, I am
Yeah.
so thrilled you're
Yeah.
realizing who you
Yeah.
are.
Yes. Yes.
And that light sometimes is just too bright for people to bear.
That's right. It's true. It's true. It's like, think about it. I guess when you said that, my thought came to Moses, right? When he came down from the mountain
Like,
and he had to just veil, he just had to veil for the sake of the people. He did not have to dim his light. Him veiling did not mean that he turned his light off.
oh, that's so good.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to keep my light, but I'm just going to temper it for you on your behalf.
Yes, I'm going to honor you.
Yes. Yes.
And
I'm
that's,
not turning it off.
have you had to kind of learn that, where you have to, there's some of it, it's too
Yeah.
much for people, and to honor them where they're at
Yeah.
needs to be
Yes,
shifted.
I did. I have had to. In fact, I struggled initially. That was one of the identifiers in my friends group initially, because they observed that because of my level of qualification academically, I would enter the room small deliberately, because I did not want, somewhere in my being, my body, my not my mind, my body,
Your countenance, your
my
physicality.
countenance, my deportment would register that this room would not feel good if I came as my full self. So to accommodate that, I would immediately diminish. Now, I am not saying right or wrong. I'm saying at the time that came from a trauma response. That was a trauma response on my part. Now, when I enter into the room, I can do the same thing, but I can do it the way Moses did it, in the sense of, for the sake of who is in the room, for the sake of how I know it would make you feel, which doesn't have anything to do with how I feel about me and what the Abba has given me to be, right? The two have nothing to do with each other. In fact, what he's given me is for you,
Yes.
and what he's given you is for me. And there will come a day when we can sit and sup But that day may not be today. Therefore, this is what we will do on your behalf, because that's his love for you, right? So yeah, so there's an attenuation that happens intentionally, but it's now from a very different perspective because I am aware. I am aware now. When I am not aware, then the experience was, and my friends would come on me about it. They would be like, you need to use this title. You need to, and they were actually responding to what they saw me doing out of an accommodation that came from a place of almost apologizing for being whatever it was that Abba had given to me. But so that's an example of a conflict and a collision. And now this is the other side. We've come out on the other side.
That is glorious. You
Yeah.
know, instead, like I don't know, the first word that comes to my mind is like a false humility, like a making ourselves small,
Yeah.
uh,
Modest.
which makes us feel smaller.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It does
Exactly.
take, I think it takes something from us
For sure. For sure.
versus coming into that where it's so other focused, it's so honoring.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that self-serving. It's getting out of self. It's
Yeah.
confidence that comes in him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll say I can ebb and flow in that. And I can, the weird thing is you can tell when you're in it. I can tell when I'm not walking in it and I'm
Yeah.
going, something's off because I'm thinking too much about this
That's right.
and
That's
how
right.
I show up. And
That's
he's like,
right.
you're trying to, and really, if you think about it, Keisha, isn't that the law? It's, I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to manage
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Versus him going, I've got everything
Yeah.
held you. So just show up and I take care of all those details. And in that place, we naturally
Right.
show up, maybe aware of it when we're doing it, but not in the same way. It's a very different feeling
It is. It
where
is.
you can show up and go, no, I'm confident in this, but I know how to temper what needs to be tempered
That's
for,
right.
for the sake of another, because it's so other focused.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. And I think that one of the things that I'm now seeing about it as well is that this, okay, so in that journeying from that place to this place, I was always aware of the fact that my heart's desire was not to make the accolade the focus. That was never my desire, but I could see how that could be projected based on references of the audience or whoever it was that was viewing. And so because of that, I'm trying to accommodate in my own strength, like you just said. But what I also now recognize is that my thought, I'm consciously aware of the thought that I had then and still have now, which was I just wanted in my mind, like I would be agitated because I would be like, oh my gosh, can we just get past this part so we could get to the real conversation? Because this thing is so good and I want you to enjoy it with me.
Mm.
Like because I know all that glitters is not gold. So if you see somebody, for example, with a lot of wealth or, I don't know, whatever, celebrity, let's just pick a celebrity. It appears glamorous, it appears all these things, the optics are just on point, etc., etc. And some of those folks, when they're doing what they're doing, for the person that is observing, it doesn't seem like it's a job, but they're working. And then, yeah, they get a hefty sum for the job that they're doing, but they're still working. And there are times when they would have actually stepped out to do that job and really didn't want to do anything more than just stay at home or just sit down in front of the couch or sit down on the couch in front of the television or whatever, visit their grandma, what, I don't know. The thing that they wanted to do that they didn't get to do, that doesn't appear to be a sacrifice in the moment because the optics suggest
Yeah, I'm
that
tracking.
there's an element of glamour and whatever. And so that was my experience, especially with my academics, because so for so many people it's a black hole in terms of, well, how did you get that, and what happened here, and my goodness, you must really be, and da 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 da. And oftentimes I didn't I knew it was including some of those things, but not limited to those things at all. The big thing was and is by the grace of the Father. That's the how. That's the answer to the how. And in a religious space, that sounds cliche, but in the now space, that's the truth.
It
So
very
I can say that with confidence now and be like, and guess what? This is how good he is. So I'm glad you asked because this is what he gives us, not me, us. And if
us.
I have it, you have it. And so can we share it, please? Let me tell you about this thing. Let me tell you about what it can do. Let me tell you about how far it can go. Let me tell you about how fast it can drive. Man, I want to have that conversation with you because that's what this is about. That's why he gave it to us,
Yes.
right?
Oh my gosh, Keisha, that is like it. That's everything. And this is like the conversation coming full circle because, we started with your academic upbringing. Well, no, the core
Mm-hmm.
of what you always knew, but then it
Mm-hmm.
got dampened down
Mm-hmm.
as academics and non-spiritual, non-religious life upbringing, you know, formed you into this academic. So it's what you can do, what the mind can do, what the
Mm-hmm.
body can do,
Mm-hmm.
carrying you off into school far away,
Mm-hmm.
where even that mindset of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
am in charge of all of these things. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's conversation coming through the whole life
Mm-hmm.
cycle,
Mm-hmm.
bringing you to that place where you're in these intimate settings now,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's online or in community that he's placed you in with people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And all of that academic and intellect and, you know, letters and initials in front and behind your name or whatever comes, that man does still put that focus on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the desire is to get to the heart, get past all that, and get the unfolding to this, what
Mm-hmm.
resides in here that is the same in all of us.
Yes.
That,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I mean, I think there's not probably very many people on the planet that we don't have to contend with that on a
Yeah.
regular basis to come back. I've
Mm-hmm.
had many things, same thing, whether can people see beyond the
Yeah.
extra? Can they see
That's
beyond
right.
the accomplishments or the things?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't, to the point where I would also overcompensate
Mm-hmm.
on the trauma stuff. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I've dealt with mental health stuff or I've dealt with these things. What you see is not what you're getting. And then
That's
that can be a false humility
right.
too,
Right. Right.
but coming in when the essence is all of that goes away to go look at the common, look at the inclusion, the
That's
oneness,
right. That's right.
your I amness, my I amness.
Yes.
You guys,
That's
by the way, that's what Keisha is known for, bringing in the way with her beautiful accent and the influx and the experience, her spirit, the spirit just soars through that when that comes and it just brings us right back to it, by the way, and you'll love it if you haven't. But this is our life journey is coming back into realizing the interconnectedness that he holds the entire cosmos together,
mm-hmm. That's right.
that exists in all of us that we're getting to. So all
That's
the other things are great. They're great.
that's
They help with family, they help with friendships, they give us um gives our flesh a purpose here on the earth,
yeah.
and we get
Yeah.
to experience him in that in every day
Yeah.
in non-religious ways.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's this that binds us all together.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
revealing that in another. I love doing that.
That's right. Yeah.
What a great conversation, my friend.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
I
Yes,
look forward to more.
for sure. For sure. It's fun.
Any parting words, just encouragement for folks that are new, hopping into this and checking out the Mirror Word
Mm.
Facebook page?
Ah, yeah.
I don't know
Prepare,
anything.
prepare to have your mind blown. And don't be afraid of that. When it happens, it's actually, it's actually just evidence of traumatic birth. But birth is the focus, not the trauma. Because the trauma is an output of the word. We have a word. I don't know if it's a real word, but it's a word I'm familiar with from where I'm from. Disaccustomancy. Disaccustomancy. In other words, it just means you're unfamiliar. Yeah. I'm unfamiliar with that aspect of my journey. I haven't met it yet. So it's going to be uncomfortable in many ways. And I might want to revert back. I might want to retreat or run for cover. But I'm here to tell everyone, don't. It's okay. It's actually going to be okay. This is not a trauma that leads to a divide or a death of you. It's a trauma. It's a good trauma. It's a good pain. It's a good pain.
You
Yeah.
don't know how much today's was literally like for an audience of me. So much of this was just on spot, which I'm really grateful for. And I know it's going to bless a lot of people.
Amen. I'm
You
happy.
guys, yeah.
Yay. We did that.
Thank you guys for tuning in today and stay tuned next week. Go through YouTube and follow on YouTube the at Amy K, the initial K, Hauser, Hauser, and share these videos with people that need the encouragement. Thanks, y'all.
I have one more thing, Amy. I just thought,
On the recording?
yeah, if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want.
Okay, sweet.
Remember I said that I was birthed into the earth through this indigenous community?
Yes.
And yeah, anyway, I started with that, and I was saying that formed and shaped the early elements of my identity or identification when I was a child. So when I got to church, the legalistic community, I was searching for answers as it pertains to that aspect of myself because I didn't have any. Did God approve? Did God want that? That kind of thing. And it wasn't until recently, through my interaction with the mirror gospel, now knowing the Father as Abba, that something connected, something clicked. There's a word we have in the language that is native to my culture. You know how in the Spanish culture, to count in Spanish, it's uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. In my culture, the counting words are, the first word, one, is Abba. Abba. That's
Okay.
literally, I've always known that. I've always known that. But I never knew that when we would be counting in the language is called Garifuna. When we would be counting in Garifuna, we were saying Abba.
We're all one. We
One.
start with one, foundationally one.
Yes, yes. So now I'm like, okay, And
I
since
love
the church couldn't give me, Abba gave me himself.
He did right from the very beginning. What is your culture? Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Belize,
Okay.
and the culture is the indigenous people are referred to or are known as the Garifuna.
Yeah.
Garifuna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So that's the culture. And yeah,
But you're in Bermuda now. Where? No. Barbados.
Barbados now.
Barbados. Yeah, I knew that.
And that's Abba again.
Hey.
So yeah, but that's what I wanted to share. Thank you for letting me share that.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us all. All right, guys, we're signing off. Have a great night, day,
Have a good
morning,
one.
wherever you are.
I'm telling